The most terrifying day of my career was the one where I realized I had become a ghost in my own skin. And I knew that because my body had just become a vehicle to take my brain to the next meeting and the next decision and the next discussion I probably didn't need to be in. I could feel myself becoming a bit of a caricature. And honestly, I'd stopped being a person and had become a persona. That's some pretty heavy stuff. When I share that with fellow insecure overachievers, they tend to smile and nod. And I see some of you smiling and nodding right now. So I think you get what I mean. We already know that AI is going to outwork, outcode, and outprocess us. And for 200 years, we've been valuing ourselves by what we produce. And if you listen to the most skeptical voices, they're telling us that AI is a threat to humans. But I actually think it's a bit more nuanced. I don't think it's a threat to the unskilled. I think it's a threat to those of us who have built an identity around wanting to be seen to be skilled. I'll give you an example. The janitor does not have a deep identity attachment to their mop and their bucket, right? But if you're a lawyer or a banker or a consultant or a founder, we talk endlessly at dinner about the all-nighter we pulled and the deal we closed. It's a bit strange. But I think there's an opportunity for us. I think AI, ironically, is going to help us rescue our souls. I think it's going to give us all permission to stop doing all the time and to start being. About 10 years ago, I took on an executive role at a Silicon Valley unicorn. It was an incredible experience. I had a lot of fun, met some great people, and it changed my life. But recently I realized this was the place that I started to hide behind a persona. I used fancy words like blitzscale and hypergrowth because that's what people wanted to hear. I had media training, so I sounded like a leader and learned never to answer a question directly ever again. Worst of all, I think I was robotic in the moments where I probably needed to be most human. I remember one specific Tuesday. We were in San Francisco and we were pitching a really big idea to the founders of the company. And it went really well. We got the decision that we wanted. So I felt excited for a moment, but then I had this sinking dread of feeling. It was horrible because I realized that the margin of error for what we just asked for was basically zero. My persona had just written a check that my future self had no chance of cashing in. And worst of all, I'd sold my team down on a deal which they would have to probably burn themselves for. I also realized in that moment I was getting increasingly competent at the game that I no longer wanted to play. And worst of all, I had no one to blame but myself. So over the next 48 hours, I kept experiencing these waves of fear. And, doing what most modern men do, I suppressed it entirely, ignored it, and decided to take my team for drinks to celebrate. The next day, I had another opportunity to face this fear. I was sat on a plane coming back to Singapore, and that wave of fear enveloped me again. And again, I just suppressed it. I blocked it out. And I said to myself, this stress is just a tax. But when we build these personas, we do them because we're looking for armor. And I've been beginning to think through what my armor was about. I think the armor helped me feel relevant. It helped me feel useful. It helped me do strange things so I could protect and provide for my family. And it helped me finally feel like I was enough. But armor by design is heavy. It sits on the body. And when we lead from a place of scarcity, well, we begin to burn. We burn energy. We burn motivation. We burn confidence. We burn patience. And suddenly that friction becomes a fire. And that fire, it shows up in the worst possible moments. When your little kid is telling you about their day at school and you're not really listening. Or your friend texts because they're going through a difficult time and you're too preoccupied to listen. So as I pull all that together, I realized that day in San Francisco was not just a one-off. It was accumulation of 20 years of decisions. And I realized that I'd been letting my internal state become a luxury, something I traded off. But it's not negotiable. Today, my non-negotiable is to focus on work that feels like play. And I do this by backing founders that I think are going to do something fun, and by investing in leaders who I think have a lot of ambition and want to work on their own ego. And actually, the most fun part of this is I get to see the persona in the wild. So it's like going on safari, actually. Maybe you recognize some of these. I get to see the investor who raises fund after fund from their LPs, despite knowing they can't deploy it. I get to see the executive who builds headcount empire after headcount empire, despite knowing they probably don't need that many people. And I get to see the entrepreneur who raises round after round, despite knowing that this product will probably never reach product market fit. And when we get together one-on-one, we start to talk about the fuel source. We discuss whether it's dirty fuel, like what I had in San Francisco, coming from a place of ego and fear, or whether it's clean fuel, like presence and purpose. But recently, these conversations, they got a bit weird, because there's this quiet truth emerging. Every time a new AI model drops, something becomes a bit clearer. Maybe those of us who want to be perceived as skilled, maybe we are becoming a liability to the things we're building. I realized I needed a map. So I thought about my own behavior, and I thought about the behavior of the people I was seeing, and I wanted to find a way to sketch this out and explain to people. So I got together with a few amateur anthropologists, is probably the most generous word, and we started to draw this out on paper. And we asked two big questions. How does something work, and why does it matter? And it led us to these four characters. The first character is the learner. The learner doesn't know how, and the learner doesn't know why. All of us have been learners. We're learners every time we do something new. My favorite example of a learner is when my little kid was trying to learn how to drink from a glass and just basically ended up waterboarding himself. In fact, you're looking at a learner right now, standing in front of you. The next character is the arbiter. The arbiter knows why, but they don't know how. They have good taste, but they don't have tools. You might recognize this arbiter. It's the junior person in a meeting who knows that everyone around them is talking nonsense, but they don't have the confidence yet to speak up and call them out. Now, this is where things get interesting. Our third character is the grinder. The grinder knows how, but they don't know why. The grinder is addicted to action. Actually, all of us have to be grinders at some point, because that's how we get our first wins. But if we stay as grinders, it becomes difficult. We become hollow and stiff and performing. And the worst part is, AI is the ultimate grinder. It can produce infinite code and content at zero marginal cost. Never has chronic illness, never has sick kids, never muddles through a messy divorce. And it shines a mirror up to our impending irrelevance if we stay this way. But there is hope. There always is, right? The hope is that AI so far cannot outlove, cannot outcare, and cannot outfeel us. Well, not yet anyway, maybe. The next release will take care of that. But the fourth character is the artist. The artist knows how, and the artist knows why. The artist will take AI and use it as a jetpack for their own finely tuned judgment. At their best, the artist is fluid. They're present. They are attuned. And they are coherent. They don't just react. They respond from their core beliefs. The CEO who is an artist will probably say something like, hey, I understand what the data is telling us, but in this situation, I think it's different, and we're going to do it like this. So for years, I ignored my body. I just focused on what my brain was telling me. Some of you might resonate with that. And it's really painful. It's really painful to know that you are in a place where you do not want to be, and you don't know how to get there. And once you know that, the self-judgment is even harder. But now it's pretty clear to me, I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to find a way to become artists. I think it might be the only niche left for humans eventually. So I want to tell you a few stories about some people I've been working with who were grinders and wanted to become artists. The firefighter. Oh wow, she was interesting. The firefighter blamed everyone for the fires around her. But she realized she was a pyromaniac with lighter fluid and matches. She eventually started to settle down and not create so many fires because she let go of the need to become a hero all the time. The people pleaser. He loved telling everyone that he was stoic and wise and patient. But actually, he just hated making decisions. And now he figures out what he wants first before thinking, what does everyone else want from me? And the office politician. He weaponized his calendar to evade silence. He was constantly in motion. He was waiting for decisions and the permission to lead to be scheduled. But now he just takes care of it anyway. So all three of these leaders thought they had a software problem. They thought that if they just released their next product or revamped their strategy, then everything would be fine. But I could see the problem myself because I've worn all three of those masks. It's a hardware problem. It's not sitting in the brain. It's sitting in the nervous system. When they were grinders, they were relying on ancient fear-based wiring. They thought only from the neck up. The jaw is tight. The shoulders are hunched. The posture is very defensive. But as they became artists, they got a factory reset for the soul. They started feeling below the neck and thinking above the neck. The jaw became loose. The shoulders became relaxed. The breathing became deep and intentional. I was pretty skeptical when I started looking at this stuff. I didn't really believe it. It's kind of woo-woo to me. But now I have no desire to go back and try and think my way out of every problem. And some of you might be skeptical too. I mean, we are at a business school after all. You might be thinking, what is the ROI of what he's saying? Or how do we measure this nonsense that he's talking about? Well, you might have figured out by now that the artist also enjoys the process of painting and not just the finished picture. And you guys look like a pretty fun bunch, so let's do an experiment. I would like you to close your eyes. Don't worry about looking cool, just close your eyes. I want you to feel your feet firmly on the floor. Now slowly think about a decision that you know you need to make, but you've just been putting off. It might be a person you need to let go of, a strategy you need to change, a one-way door you know you need to walk through. Sit with the discomfort for a bit longer. Okay, now I want you to imagine I've given you a magic wand And suddenly that decision has been made. You finally told the truth to yourself, and you finally had that hard conversation. I want you to feel those emotions. Don't block them like I did on the plane. Now slowly open your eyes. Feel your fingers. That is your nervous system coming back online. We cannot become artists while we keep performing as grinders. And we're all starting to see our value is not just restricted to the stuff we do, but it's around our judgment and our taste and our vision. So how do you spot an artist today when you leave this amphitheater? The artist pursues a fit body and a calm mind. The artist pursues high quality relationships so they can make high quality decisions. The artist takes their time to see other people, but they also allow themselves to be seen clearly too. The artist is present right now without a time machine to the past or the future. The artist knows exactly where the next brushstroke needs to go. So what does this mean for you? One big question. Maybe ask yourself in the shower later or when you're talking to a friend. Who would you become if you had no fear to drop your persona? Our future is uncapped as humans. We need to stop trying to outwork the code and outwork the chips. It's time for us to look inward at this magical nervous system that we have that gives us beautiful signal every second of every day. And if we can ditch the personas and lead from that wisdom, we can all become the artists that we were born to be. Thank you.